Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Penguin Live TV. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. My name is Stephen. I'm going to be your host tonight, showing you our penguins. And joining me, we have the lovely Emma.
Hi everyone, I'm Ranger Emma. This is my first night, so it's very exciting to be joining you. I'll be checking on some of your questions tonight, so throw us your questions over YouTube or Facebook, and I'll be voicing over to Steve and asking some of those questions. Bye guys.
All right, thanks, Emma. So we started a little bit early tonight because we think the penguins might be coming out of the ocean just a few minutes early tonight. We'll have to see if that happens. It's a bit rainy here, as you can see, across this beautiful beach, the birds flying around at the top of the screen. And as we're looking at this beach, I want to take the time to acknowledge the land we're on and the traditional custodians of this land, the Bunurong Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present, and emerging. Now, this land would be called Malau to the Bunurong, meaning Phillip Island. We're on Phillip Island in Victoria. We have lots of you who have been watching night after night, watching our penguins, and some of you might be first-time viewers. So welcome to all the first-time viewers checking out our penguins, and welcome back to all of you who've been watching us night after night. I've seen a lot of you writing Huck in the comments, greeting each other, which is such a wonderful gesture. Now, our penguins are not too far away, so I'm going to scan this beach and let me know if you see any. Now, sometimes our penguins come out a little bit early on the stormy nights. The cover of the darkness, the cover of the clouds creates a bit of extra darkness for our penguins. It means that they might have a bit more protection from any predators. Because our penguins, they only come out at night when the predators, mainly the big birds of prey, go to sleep for the evening. So they're keeping an eye on the sky, making sure all those big scary birds go to sleep. And during a rainstorm, the big predators, the eagles, the kites, any large bird that eats small animals is probably going to go to bed a little bit early. They're not going to have too much of fun risking flying in poor weather. So our penguins, on these stormy nights, they might come out a little bit early. I think I see some penguins way down the beach. Let's see if I can zoom in on those guys. Maybe get a bit of focus. Oh, it's really hard to focus in the rain. Yeah, there's some penguins just hanging around on the water's edge all the way in down the middle. Oh, I don't think these guys are getting ready to come out just yet. Oh, it's pretty exciting. Our first group of penguins already, and they've shown up a little bit early tonight. Now here at the Penguin Parade, we're part of the Phillip Island Nature Parks. We're a self-funded and we're a not-for-profit organization. What that means is we don't really, our main passion is taking care of the environment. We have conservation at our heart. That's what we're here to do. We're here to protect our penguins. We also look after other animals like our koalas at the Koala Conservation Reserve. We're taking care of a few of the bushfire-affected koalas from earlier this year. And we take care of other species of animals that are native to Phillip Island and maybe threatened as well. So if you wanted to help us out, you could come visit us on the weekends. We are open on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays. You can come visit us in person, watch these penguins with your own eyes. We just reopened very recently. And if you are unable to come see us and visit us and enjoy the experience of our little penguins or our koalas, then you can have a bit of a look at the link just below this video. The Penguin Foundation is our charity organization. Oh, that's gone out of focus. There we go. We'll see if I can keep it in focus. Our charity foundation does a lot of work of protecting our sick and injured penguins. They help fund our wildlife clinic, where if we have any injured animals, penguins, mainly seabirds, we have people on staff there who will take care of them, make sure they're healthy. But they also do a lot of work with research and conservation as well, funding lots of projects we do here to help make this a very great place for our little penguins to come home to. Now I'm scanning along the beach. I'm hoping to see some penguins that might be crossing on our side. And keep your eye on the water. Let me know if you see any penguins over on our side of the beach.
Stephen, I have a question from Stuart. He was wondering, the seagulls, do they have anything to do with the penguins? Are they friends or are they an issue on the beach there for them?
That's a great question. So are seagulls a problem for our penguins? Why are they there with the penguins? Our seagulls don't have too much interaction with our penguins. They're called silver gulls here. Um, and they are more scavengers than predators. They're not here to attack our penguins. They're not here to um, cause any disruption to our penguins, even though they do from time to time. Um, they don't really have too much relations. They're not friends with each other per se. They just tolerate each other for the most part. Occasionally, you'll see a bit of not anger working up, but a bit of disgruntledness between the two parties. You'll see a seagull dive bombing our penguins and scattering the penguins away. And sometimes you'll see a group of penguins waddle up to a single seagull all by themselves and give them a nip on the bum, making sure they know they can't just get around bullying them without any consequences. So no real fighting happening between our seagulls and our penguins, but they're definitely not friends. We've got this lovely group right here that has just started crossing the beach. That's fantastic. It's not a massive group. It's a bit small. This might just be an early scouting party. These guys decided they're in a bit more of a rush than some of the other penguins out on the ocean. I hope that a vast majority of our penguins are still in the water, waiting for it to get a little bit darker before they come home. A lot of our start times have been around 8 o'clock over the last couple of weeks, just after 8. And right now is about 7:45, 7:50. So these penguins are showing up a little bit earlier. There's still a bit of brightness outside. And these guys are in a rush to get home. Now, sometimes penguins might be more keen to get home earlier. Maybe they have babies waiting for them at home because it is the breeding season right now. And sometimes they have to spend more time than they thought out on the ocean. Now, our penguins, they go out into the water trying to catch as much fish as they can, fill their bellies up, and bring their fish home inside their bellies back to their babies. They'll regurgitate the food into their babies' mouths. But if they don't have enough fish in the ocean, they can't fill their own belly. There's no point in coming home. So they might spend more than a day out on the ocean. They might spend days, maybe 3, 4, 5 days on the ocean trying to catch enough fish to feed their babies. And if they've been out on the ocean for a few days, those babies are going to be hungry. And it can be quite dangerous for little babies to go so long without food, so they might be rushing home, making sure their babies have something to fill those hungry, hungry tummies they have. It doesn't matter to our babies how long they've gone without food. They're going to be aggressive to mom and dad looking for food, even if they've only been gone for a few hours. I should say 12 hours. Might lose this group of penguins behind the bush here. I'm going to try to keep them in view. But they're not very big, our penguins. They're called the little penguins for a reason. They're the world's smallest penguins. These guys are only about 33 centimeters tall, and they weigh roughly a kilogram in weight. So being so small, it is hard to keep them nice and visible when they duck behind larger pieces of bushes or grass even.
I have a question from Michelle. It's a great one. I love this one. Do penguins feel the cold?
Do penguins feel the cold? That is a great question. So that's a bit interesting because penguins are well suited for the cold. And if it gets too cold, yes, penguins do suffer as a result from the cold. They can feel it, but their feathers offer them a very nice layer of protection from the cold. Now, penguins have two sets of feathers. They've got these sleek feathers you see on the outside, the white and the dark blue feathers on the outside. That's their, I like to call it their winter coat. It's also a waterproof coating. It keeps the water from touching their skin. So even though they're diving into frigid water, and it's not very warm, it's probably 12, 13 degrees in the water out there, not toasty water by any stretch. But our penguins don't feel that water at all because the layer of feathers around their body keeps the water away from their skin. And underneath their waterproof feathers, they've got a layer of downy feathers inside that keeps them dry and keeps them warm, a nice fluffy jumper on the inside. So our penguins, they don't feel the cold too much. We've got a couple of penguins here just trying to get good purchase before they jump into our pool. But if it does get cold enough, yes, our penguins will feel the cold, but they're well suited for cold. They much prefer cooler weather than they do the hot temperatures. Let's see if we can watch these guys swimming through our lovely pond here. You guys have been so lucky. The pond rarely spends this long here on the penguin parade. It usually disappears quite quickly. And those penguins have just swam out of my view. There we go, shown up again. So our penguins will always choose to swim through the pond on their journey home. We have an empty Penguins Plus stand tonight. We're not open on the weekdays. It's only on the weekends. Let's see if I can get that other camera, the highway camera, up for you. Ooh, there's a bit of rain on that camera, isn't there? But that's all right. You can still see the penguins waddling their way home. And these guys are on a journey home. Some of them are definitely going back to some babies tonight because the breeding season is well underway. There are chicks in the colony. There's lots of eggs. Everything's happening here at the Penguin Parade. All right, well, that camera's a bit too waterlogged to get a great view, so I might not use it too much tonight. Let's see if there's anything happening on the beach. You can still have a look at it in the top right of the screen there.
Steve, I have a question which I guess is concerning the fact that penguins are birds. Do they fly?
Do penguins fly? They do not fly. I like to say they fly through the water. They're excellent swimmers, but those little flippers that you can see on our penguins when we get them back in view are too small for them to fly. So penguins do not fly. Occasionally, you will see penguins on the rocks that will be flapping their flippers like crazy. It almost looks like they want to try and take off and start flying, but that's not what they're trying to do. These penguins cannot fly. All right, so we've got a bit of a lag between our first two groups. We had that nice little group that came across, the early scouting party. Hopefully, there'll be some penguins out on the beach that are thinking of coming home. Maybe they were watching the penguins, and they might be following suit. Now you can tell that the water is not so. There's a few penguins right on the water's edge. The rain is affecting our cameras a little bit. It's really hard to focus these cameras on faraway distances, especially with the rain, and there's lots of water on our lenses, so apologies. The weather is not ideal here on Phillip Island. It's perfect. Oh, that's a nice big group there on the right. I almost missed this group. It's perfect penguin weather, so hopefully we'll get some large numbers of penguins. Let's get these guys in focus.
Oh. Perfect penguin weather. Why do they like this kind of weather?
Why is this perfect penguin weather? Well, they don't like hot weather, our penguins. Anything over 35 degrees can actually be a little bit dangerous for a penguin's health. Our penguins suffer from overheating more than they do from the cold. Cold weather, especially in Australia, is pretty much ideal for our penguins. They are not going to freeze to death here in Australia. We don't get that cold, not dangerous cold for our penguins. But we definitely do get too hot. So I believe that our penguins would much rather to come home in this gusty, windy, rainy weather because it offers them a bit of protection from the heat, and it also offers them quite a bit of protection from any potential late night predators who haven't gone to sleep yet. That's a nice little group there. Maybe put in the comments how many penguins you think are in that group right there. We have a couple of rangers counting penguins tonight. We have Paul and Ebony, who are our penguin counters this evening, and they're going to have a rough time because poor Paul is going to have a rough time counting this group. Looks like they're splitting down the middle around these rocks. That's going to throw off his count a little bit. And there's another big group in the back. Now, last night, our penguins came home at 7:51, so our penguins are a little bit earlier tonight, a few minutes earlier than last night. Similar weather last night. It wasn't as rainy, but we still had a bit of rain last night. And I was counting the penguins with Linda, and we had 2,286 penguins last night, which was a great evening. It was a lot of fun counting the penguins. I'm going to try and zoom in on these penguins. Hopefully the camera is going to focus in this weather. We've got a very low tide tonight, which means our poor penguins have a bigger, dangerous dash to get across this beach, scrambling over the rocks, tripping over their own 2 feet, and they're a bit exposed on the sand. Once they make it past the safety of the first sand dunes, they should feel a lot more confident. confident enough to just stand around, preen their feathers, relax a little bit before they go on their last leg of their journey home. Now, these rocks are particularly slippy tonight, so much rain on them that even the best footed person might slip on these rocks. Our penguins are doing a really good job, though. They've got those sharp claws on their feet, gives them a bit of grip even on these precarious rocks. But that said, even a very stable penguin is likely to slip here and there. They're not the most agile creatures on land. Our penguins, they love to spend most of their life out on the ocean. About 80% of their life is spent swimming on the water. Only 20% of their life is here on land. Our penguins can sleep on the ocean, so they don't even come home every night. It's only around this time of year that we see lots of penguins coming home night after night because they're coming home for their babies. When they don't have the babies, when the babies have grown up and left home, they're not going to come home as often because all of their food is out in the ocean, and that's where they're going to be safest, is out on the water.
Question from Paul and Jenny, and it links into what you just said. Would the colony be a bit smelly at times?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a great question. Is our colony smelly at times? And Linda and I were out last night and we couldn't believe the smell. Because over the last few months, it hasn't been too smelly. There weren't too many babies around. But my goodness, last night, Linda and I both looked at each other from time to time and think, can you smell that? How bad is that smell? And the babies, if you have babies, you've had babies in your life, if you have young kids at home, if you've ever changed a nappy, you know how much babies smell. Now imagine tons and tons of babies in our colony and they don't have a rubbish disposal system. They just have to wait for the rain to wash away some of that waste, if you will. It can get quite stinky here at the penguin colony. And that's why we love people coming to see our penguins because that just adds to the experience, adds to the flavor of the moment. Because that smell is quite potent. A little penguin potpourri, if you will. I'm trying desperately to get these penguins into focus. The camera's struggling to get these guys into focus. Come on, let's try moving it around a bit. A little bit better. So you can see lots of penguins shaking their heads, shaking their flippers, barreling through. This is just a barrage of penguins. Now, some of our penguins, they're shaking their heads trying to get the salt out of their eyes. They have a gland just behind their eyes that when they drink salt water, it filters the salt out and they get these little salty boogers around their eyes and they shake their heads trying to loosen those off and shake them free. And the other penguins are preening themselves, getting themselves beautiful for their journey home, making sure they look good for their partner who's waiting for them at home. Penguins are meticulous about their preening. They really do care about their own self-image, and it's not just for vanity's sake. They're not doing that just to make themselves beautiful for their partner, but it has a really important function. They get the oil off their oil gland that's located above their tail. They spread it all over their feathers. They make their feathers waterproof, and it makes them more efficient on the water. So it's sort of a very important survival tactic for them.
Speaking of feathers, Indiana, who's only 12, has a question about at what age do the babies get rid of their young feathers, their downy feathers?
Great question. What age do our babies get rid of their downy feathers? And what time do they start growing in their adult feathers? Well, I'm going to have to go back to my breeding season stats. It's around 4 weeks, and I'm sure any rangers who are watching me at home are going to be giving me grief about maybe getting the exact dates wrong, but roughly around 4 weeks, they start to lose a bit of their downy feathers, might be 5 weeks. And they start to lose their downy feathers. It happens around their tail area at first, maybe a bit around their beak area. And it slowly progresses so that they push out all their baby downy feathers. And roughly by 8-9 weeks of age, give or take, depending on the penguin, they'll have lost all of their downy feathers and they'll be ready to go swimming into the ocean. So it only takes a penguin about 2 months from hatching to look like an adult penguin at first glance. The only difference between a really juvenile penguin and an adult penguin is a difference in their beak, because our penguins take some time to grow into their beak. But without a trained eye, you'd have a hard time noticing the difference. It's a nice group in the top right corner, just barreling along the Penguin Highway. Oh, that's just fantastic, waddling their way home. These guys are causing a bit of a traffic jam here on the rocks. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just to see how big this traffic jam has gotten. Oh, that's a bit of a traffic jam. Really big holdup. There's another group waiting to get home. Wow. I feel sorry for Paul tonight. Send your love to Paul. He's having a hard time counting these penguins. I had a hard time last night, and it was one of our lowest nights over the last week or so. Penguins here on the diving board. Are you going to hop in, giving yourself a bit of a scratch before you think about jumping into the water? It's fun watching these guys on their journey home, stopping and preening themselves. They might stand there for a few minutes before they go on. Maybe an impatient penguin from behind will actually push them off. It's just really fun watching the chaos of little penguins. They slip and slide all over the place.
Talking about their movement, Stephen, you're saying slipping and sliding. I have a question about, do they jump?
Penguins can jump, yes. Now, they're not great jumpers. They lack the necessary anatomy to have an excellent jump. Penguins don't really have functional knees. If you were to x-ray a penguin, you could see where their knees should be, but you'd also see that their knees are located inside of their torso, and their knees are actually fused together. So penguins don't have the use of knees when they're jumping, but they've got pretty strong ankles. If they need to jump over some rocks, they can, but they're not going to be able to win any high jumping contests, that's for sure. All right, empty penguins plus stand. I'm going to follow some penguins on this pathway up here. Nice little group. I don't know if I'll be able to see them. There's been so much rain that the grass has just been growing like crazy. And our penguins, as I said, are the little penguins. They're very small. They just disappear in this jungle of grass. It wouldn't be too tall for us, you know, it'd be around our calves in height. Oh, another traffic jam. This is the location where we had our swan and penguin standoff a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago. But I don't see, that's not a swan, it was a goose, not a swan. I don't know if I see anything of interest. What are you? Is that a bunny? No, that's just a penguin in the grass. Not sure why those penguins have decided they want to hold up all the other penguins. But that's all right. They're not the most socially aware. Like those people in the supermarket that just stop in the middle of the aisle and chat with their friends, and you can't get around them with your shopping trolley. They're just blocking the way for everybody else. It's all right. A couple of penguins just going to push their way through. Hopefully they'll get the hint. We got a little penguin out here just outside of a burrow. That might be the penguin who owns that burrow. It might not. But our penguins each have their own burrow. Each male has their own burrow. And if they're lucky, they'll have a partner waiting for them at home. But they don't have cell phones. They can't coordinate their plans. So occasionally the male might come home and his lady friend might be in the ocean still. He might wait all night for his lady friend to come home, but she's not going to come home until tomorrow, and they'll pass each other in the ocean. They won't even see each other on land. But these things happen. Eventually they will meet up. And my goodness, that's a lot of penguins right there. That's just fantastic. Look at these lovely guys just plowing through each other, trying to find a little bit of a gap here and there on their journey home.
I have a question regarding teeth. Do penguins have teeth?
Penguins have teeth. That's an excellent question. Penguins do not have teeth. They have something a little bit different in their mouth. They have spikes in their mouth, which are different than teeth. And if you were to open up a penguin's mouth, you would see lots and lots and lots of little spikes, and all of their spikes would be pointing down towards their throat. Now, these spikes are really good at catching fish. So if a penguin gets a fish in its mouth and the fish goes into its mouth, it's like a Chinese finger trap because the spikes stop the fish from escaping out of its mouth. The only way the fish can get out of the spikes is by swimming down towards the throat, down towards the belly. So you don't want to be a little fish caught in a penguin's mouth. There's a bunny just plowing its way through the penguins. Excuse me, Mr. Bunny, you're not allowed in there. That's a bit funny. Don't worry, bunnies are not a real threat to our penguins, and small numbers. It's only when their numbers get too large that they become a threat. But as I was saying, penguins do not have teeth. They have little spikes in their mouth. Great at making sure the fish stay in their mouth and they don't have any fish that get away. And what a large group of penguins there. Paul is very lucky to have such a large beach to count our penguins tonight. I'm going to flip over to this camera. Having more beach to watch our penguins coming home on gives you more time to get the numbers just right before they finally cross. Trying to count that many penguins on a high tide is tricky at best. It's not just Paul and Ebony who are doing lots of hard work here at the nature parks, the Phillip Island Nature Parks. I also want to offer a big shout out to all of our volunteers who have not been able to come and assist us over the last few months due to the lockdown, but we're hoping to start opening up very soon. We'd love to see our volunteers back helping out behind the scenes, making sure not only the penguin colony, but the koalas, the bush banks, the Churchill Island, and all of our areas are kept well running, well groomed. We couldn't survive as an organization without our wonderful volunteers, and we can't wait to see you guys back in the future. I know a few of you like to watch night after night as well. Wow, the penguins just don't stop. Now we are open this weekend for visitors, so you can grab some tickets if we haven't sold out already. We're quite popular. We have a limited capacity, but if we haven't sold out, grab your tickets for the weekend. If not this weekend, maybe the next weekend, and come and watch these penguins with your own eyes. It's a once in a lifetime experience seeing so many penguins with so few people around. It's just fantastic. Now, Emma has just told me we have about 5 minutes left of the stream. So if you have any questions, make sure you get them in. We will try and answer maybe 1 or 2 questions here or there. And if we don't get to them, put them on our Facebook feed. We do our best to answer questions over the next 24 hours on Facebook by typing out a response for you. Lots of rangers are good at typing out those answers. They know as much as maybe more than I do about the penguins. Oh, I just saw something over here. Let's see if I can grab those 2 penguins. You can see a couple of penguins going the wrong way there. Their backs are towards the camera. They're in the grassy area, heading back towards the beach. Those are 2 females with eggs. I like to call them the pregnant females, a bit of a mother's group going down to the beach. We call them shell grinners, is their term, because they're going to the beach to eat shell grit. And shell grit is really high in calcium. Oops, and the calcium is really good for their eggs development. So when they get those calcium, it's really satisfying those pregnancy cravings. Alrighty, let's try and go back to the beach and see if anything else is happening out here before we finally close our stream tonight. We've had excellent numbers.
Stephen, one last question regarding breeding season. Do the mother penguins, do they stay on the eggs? And does the father penguin, do they bring food back to the mums?
Well, that's a great question. We get this question so often about how the breeding works with our penguins. Do the mums stay at home with the babies or with the eggs? And does dad bring home food home for everybody? That's a good assumption. Lots of people have that one. But no, our penguin parents take turns. So let's say mom lays the egg. She might sit on them for a couple of days while dad's out fishing. Dad comes home. He's not going to give any food to mom. He is going to take his turn to sit on the eggs with a full belly, and mom gets to go out fishing, catch her own fish, and they keep swapping places. Somebody should always be sitting on the eggs to incubate them, make sure they're nice and warm, make sure that the eggs have a chance at hatching. And after the eggs hatch, the same thing happens. Whoever's with the eggs after they hatch is going to keep the babies warm, regulate their temperatures, because baby penguins are terrible at thermoregulation. They can't keep themselves warm enough on their own, so they have to snuggle up underneath mom or dad, keeping themselves warm, and mom and dad will keep changing positions until the babies are roughly a month of age, give or take. At that point, the babies can control their own temperatures. They're not going to get too shivery if mom and dad leave them at home alone. They can keep themselves warm. And at that point, at roughly a month of age, those baby penguins are almost the size of an adult. And they're like teenagers. They're eating twice as much as an adult does. They're growing like crazy. And so mom and dad, they can no longer really afford to take turns feeding them. They both have to go into the ocean and feed them as often as they can. So babies might get lucky and have 2 feeds in a single night. Hopefully they have a feed every day, maybe every other day. But the more food they get, the stronger they are going to grow, and the better chance they have at surviving when they get kicked out of the house. Yeah, lovely. These penguins are really going on a journey home tonight, which is just fantastic to see. They're doing so well here on Phillip Island, and it's due to a lot of the hard work we do here as an organization. Our volunteers, our staff here, they all working to make sure these penguins have a wonderful home that they can call their own. And if you guys wanted to help out, I just want to remind you that we have our Penguin Foundation link at the bottom of the screen. And lost that little one. Our Penguin Foundation is great at taking care of our injured penguins, helping to fund our hospital, our wildlife clinic, helping to fund a lot of our conservation work. So if you wanted to throw a little bit of money towards them, it will go back into helping our penguins. But as these guys are going on their journey home, it's time for Emma and myself to also go on a journey home. So we might say goodbye to you for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and wish you all a very lovely evening on this wet, rainy night. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.